Hello? Oh, crap. I didn't mute it again, did I? Can you hear me? Perfect. Okay. So we're going to do kind of the quick and dirty version today. But we'll still get a lot from it. This is actually a really easy I've actually read it a couple times this morning, and so it's a pretty easy thing to break down this time. We have Genesis 24, 25, and 26. So I'm probably actually going to be referencing my actual physical Bible in front of me a lot more to help me navigate a little quicker. Gosh, glasses with headsets just don't really work very well, just so you know. So I shall be blind. Okay. So in chapter 24, we are introduced to Rebecca. Rebecca is, I think Lonadar and I determined she is the great niece of Abraham. So she's like a second or third cousin-ish relation to Isaac, who she is going to marry. So what's really interesting about this story is Abraham sends a servant to Haran to pick out a wife for Isaac. He says, I don't want Isaac to leave this land. This was our promised land. I don't want him to leave. Abraham obviously thinks that he's going to die soon, so he needs to get a wife for his son. And it needs to be a wife from his bloodline, from his family. So he sends for the servant to find a wife in Haran, and it's one of those situations where it's definitely a divine plan. So the servant goes, and when he gets there, he stops and he prays. I love what he does, because I feel like it's just another so human thing that we totally do. Because he asks God for a very, very specific sign of who he's supposed to bring back to marry Isaac, right? Very specific. He said, I want, show me the woman who offers me a drink and who offers to water all of my camels, which is really interesting, because a little note here was it would be 250 gallons of water to water all of the camels that he brought with him. He brought 10 camels, 250 gallons. So that is no small task. So the woman that offers to give him water, give the servant water, and water the camels, may she be the one that you intend for me to bring back to marry Isaac. It was very specific. I feel like that's totally something that we do. But he also does it with the trust that, there's more at play here than just, the first chick who comes and takes care of me is who's going to marry her. No, it's like I said, it's no small task. So before he even finished his prayer, Rebecca comes out, and exactly what he asked God for happened. Rebecca offered him a drink, offered to water all the camels, and so the servant is like, okay, this chick is the one, gets taken back to the house, to her family's house, and in short, it's agreed upon that she's going to come back and marry Isaac. So Rebecca, we will find out more about her later, but right now, at this point in her life, she's very, shall we say, devout. She's a good follower. She's a good believer. She's faithful. But later on in her life, we'll see that change. So that's where we are in chapter 24. One thing that I also wanted to point out too is multiple points. I feel like this is one of those things that like society is like WTF about a little bit. thinking that it's not something that is okay for Christians to do, and that is meditation. I will point out that in many places in the Bible, we see righteous people meditating, and it is something that is absolutely okay, and really good for us to do, is take time to meditate, um, and just have some peace, right? And find God in that meditation space. And that is something that that Isaac does often. It's a really great discipline for me. Yeah, absolutely. And so just know that that is actually something that is very, shall we say, smiled upon rather than frowned upon. Just kind of one of those little things. So, next we find out that that Abraham gets married again. Yes, you and me both, sister. it's it's very, very good for you. That's for sure. Um, it's definitely different um, than prayer time, right? It's definitely different than prayer time. Prayer time, you are definitely you are speaking directly with God. When you meditate, it is very much, oh gosh, I don't even know how to explain it, but as you guys both meditate, I'm sure you know exactly what I am referring to. It's just a very different very different feeling. The end goal might be very much the same, but the process of it and the feeling during and all of that is just different. So meditation, awesome. um, so Abraham, about 40 years pass between yes, exactly. That's a really good way to put it. About 40 years pass between the death of Sarah and the death of Abraham. So Abraham has 40 years of his life um, to have more children, right? So he finds another wife, Keturah, and Keturah has, I counted them, I think it was what, eight sons? Let's see, one, two, three, four, five, oh, six sons. So we've got Zimran, Jokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, Shua are the sons of Keturah. So he has a whole bunch more kids, but it is very important to recognize that Isaac was the promised son, is the promised son. He is the one that will inherit everything, right? He will inherit everything from Abraham. These children are part of the plan of, if you remember, God told Abraham that he will have so many descendants that it'll be like the stars. You can't count them all, right? So these other children are going to help in that plan, and they will help populate the other nations. But Isaac is the promised son. And then Abraham dies. He was 175 years old. So as you can see, too, God is starting to shorten lifespans. It used to be 900 some odd years. Now they're living into the hundreds, right? So that's important to note. So then we see that Isaac and Ishmael. So Ishmael is Hagar's son, the Egyptian slave, and they were sent off, right? So Ishmael and Isaac, they are basically like they are always going to fight. They never have peace with each other. They are competing sons, from different mothers, but both from Abraham. And they, how do I put this? Well, I mean, in short, Isaac is the promised son. He is the heir, even though Ishmael came first. Isaac came from Sarah, and it shows that there is importance in both parents. Both parents of a child, both sides of the bloodline are important for the child and their inheritance. Ishmael came first, but he did not come from Sarah. He is not the promised son. He is not the one that is supposed to inherit everything. That is Isaac, even though Isaac came later. And that shows us that it is important who both of the parents are, according to God and what they will inherit. So then Rebecca has children. She's barren for 20 years. So she tries for 20 years. She can't have any babies. And then Isaac prays to God for this to change, for him to have children. And then Rebecca has twins. Rebecca is told that the younger of the twins, so the one that is born second, will be served by the older. So Jacob is the younger, and Eshwa is the and Lonadar, you are really good with like pronunciations of things. So if you catch me pronouncing something wrong, you are more than welcome to correct me. I'm really bad at pronouncing these names. But Eshwa is the older brother. His name means hairy. It's a great name, right? Hairy. And then he's given another name later, Edom, that means red, because he was born very red-haired and very hairy. He was very hairy all over his body, so that's where he got his name. Jacob means heel gripper, or how exactly was it put? One who supplants. Because Jacob, Rebecca was told by God that Jacob will supplant Eshwa. Later on, we see in their genealogy that the descendants of Jacob, they inherit Israel, and the descendants of Eshwa go to they are the Edomites. Esau, is it? I don't know. Okay, we'll say Esau then. So he becomes his people are the Edomites. That makes sense because he was given the name Edom or Edom. So they also quarrel. Perfect. So Esau. Okay, cool. See, I told you I'm just terrible with pronunciations. I really am. So by right of birth, right? So by birthright, Esau was born first, right? He came out first, even though they're twins. He came out first. He's older, so he is supposed to be, out of the two of them, he's supposed to be the one who inherits, Isaac's inheritance. He is the one that is supposed to become the head of the family when Isaac dies. But that is not what God put in place. God said Jacob is going to be the one to inherit the family. He is the one with the birthright. So there's a bit of tension going on between Isaac. Oh, hiccup, sorry. Between Isaac and Rebecca. Rebecca favors Jacob because Jacob is going to be the one, she was told by God, he will be the one to inherit the family. And Isaac favors his older son, Esau. So there's a lot of tension that goes between them. When they are older, Esau, I just have to read a little bit of the story because it's just like, seriously, dude? Like, what on earth are you thinking? So now Jacob cooked a stew, and Esau came in from the field, and he was weary. And Esau said to Jacob, "Please feed me with that same red stew, for I am weary." Therefore his name was called Edom, which means red. But Jacob said, "Sell me your birthright as of this day for a cup of soup." And Esau said, "Look, I am about to die. So what is this birthright to me?" Then Jacob said, "Swear to me as of this day." So he swore to him and sold his birthright to Jacob. And Jacob gave Esau bread and stew of lentils. Then he ate and drank, arose, and went his way. Then Esau despised his birthright. He freaking sold his birthright for a cup of soup. Like, what? Come on. But it's important to note here that Jacob already had the birthright from God. Like, the birthright doesn't come from these are not things that come from us as people. They come from God. God already said Jacob is getting this. Like, this is for right, seriously. Jacob is getting this. Jacob is going to inherit the family. He's going to inherit everything the family has. He is going to be the head of the family when Isaac dies. Like, it's going to be Jacob, it's not going to be Esau. So this was just kind of one of those moments, like, seriously, and we totally see a lot of those moments where it's like, really, like, that's how that happened. Like, God definitely has a sense of humor. But it also shows that Esau was very greedy, right? He was so greedy that he wanted what his brother had as far as a material good. He wanted his soup. And he just was like, "Oh, yeah, you totally have my birthright. Yeah, right. Give me what you have. I want it right now." So there's a lot of greed right there. And that kind of shows a little bit of the difference of their personality, too. Esau is a spoiled child. Or I guess, I'm not sure actually how old he is at this point, but that just cracks me up. So then there is a famine, and because of the famine, Isaac basically seeks out help, right? So Isaac goes to, you may recognize this name, King Abimelech, king of the Philistines in Gerar. This is the same king that Abraham went to and lied, saying that Sarah was his sister, right? So he lied, saying Sarah was his sister. She almost became a concubine, but fortunately they got stopped before anybody had a chance to do anything. So guess what happens when Isaac goes with his wife, Rebecca? He does the exact same thing. He goes and he lies and says, "This is my sister because she's so beautiful. I don't want to be killed because of her." But he handles it a little less gracefully than Abraham does. But he also is just straight up honest. Less graceful, but more honest. Abraham was like, "Oh, yeah, totally gonna blame God, and I'm gonna blame her, and, I don't want to take the blame for lying about this." Isaac straight up was like, "Yeah, no, I was afraid you were gonna kill me, so I just told you it was my sister." And the king sends him away, angry. "Get out of here. We don't want you here." So they go back home. Um, and then, so they have some quarrels over some wells. Finally, they get a patch of land, again near Bathsheba, where Abraham had settled previously, and they settle there. And then along comes the king again, and excuse me, he comes up to where Isaac is living now. And of course, Isaac's first reaction is, "What are you doing here? You guys hate me. Like, why are you here?" So the king tells him, "We've seen that you are righteous, and we've seen that God is with you. So we want to make a covenant with you. We want to make a deal with you that, basically an alliance. Like, you're not going to harm us. We're not going to harm you. There's going to be peace between us. And so, so they make a pact between themselves. And it's the same pact, the same kind of alliance that Abraham had made with him a long time ago, but now the king is coming and making it specifically with Isaac. So that's significant. Excuse me. So then, oh, that's the next chapter. I won't dive into that yet. So I will tell you my biggest takeaway from this. And I know we really did the quick and dirty, so I hope you actually got something from that. I think the absolute biggest takeaway from this, like for me personally, the biggest thing that was like, that's totally important, is the part where Isaac, first of all, he goes and he makes the same mistake his dad did, right? He lies the exact same lie, and he gets sent away, and the king is angry with him. And the first thing I thought was, you know what? Like, how many times in our lives have we totally made the same mistakes over and over, or even like made a mistake somebody else made? Did the exact same thing, and we got somebody really mad at us, you know? And then the king comes and is like, you know what? Like, basically, I forgive you. I see that you're good, and I see that God is with you, and I want to be part of that, you know? And I love that it's such a good example of how we are human, we make mistakes, we will hurt people, we will upset people, we will totally mess up sometimes. And sometimes that will push people away from us. But also, when we display righteous behavior, and when we let God shine through us, people notice that. And it can really draw people in ways that we could never imagine. Never imagine. I feel like it's one of those things that, like, I hear my pastor say all the time, is you never know. You never know who's watching. You never know what they're noticing. You never know when somebody is going to come to you and say, you know what? How the heck are you so happy and full of joy and peaceful? Like, your life is great. How is that possible? And even like when you're going through some tough stuff and people see that you are still being, graceful and joyful, and, you're able to endure it without being not joyful, you know, um, when we're able to let God shine through us, even and especially in the tough times, people notice that. And that is such a great opportunity for them to see what God can do in our lives, and give them a way to discover God, maybe for the first time, right? So this king, he saw Isaac did something wrong, he pushed him away, but when he realized how close he was to God, he pulled him close again. And now they're allies, and that king is going to get to grow closer to God through Isaac too. And anybody that's in his household, anybody that's in his kingdom is going to see that alliance and be part of that. And that's something that we get to do as well. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. These freaking hiccups. So I think that was my biggest takeaway here. The other thing that I wanted to point out. I already did that. Just kidding. We talked about that along the way. Yeah. There's the quick and dirty version. Um, that was very, 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 very quick. Usually we take about an hour and where's my timer? I don't know, a few minutes in. But do you have any takeaways? I know Lonadar, you read it this morning with me. Do you have any other thoughts on that? You can chime in. I know you're on the voice chat. You can chime in and talk if you want, or in the chat, whatever. Um, but what are your thoughts? I know you had some thoughts this morning. Something bad. Actually, yeah, right? That's very true. That's very true. And that really makes me think of um seriously, I don't think anybody likes to fight with their family. Anybody in their family. But they're part of a big plan for life. Exactly. So one of the things that we've seen a lot of in previous chapters is the significance of seeing the genealogy. Because those are definitely sections that I have read a zillion times, and every time I'm like, oh my gosh, can I just skip over this? Like, I'd feel guilty if I skipped over it, but I don't really want to read it because why? And going through it more nitty gritty lately, we've been able to see that, sometimes God's plan takes generations to actually come to fruition. Um, just like Abraham is a descendant of Noah. Noah is a descendant of Adam, right? But how many hundreds, if not thousands of years were between each of those generations, right? And it was Noah that saved his family from the flood, thanks to God. And then from Noah's family came Abraham. Abraham became the father of nations, right? And then we see Isaac. Isaac eventually, his descendants become the Israelites. It takes generations for things to happen. But in between all of that, you betcha there's a lot of chaos. Absolutely. The other thing that your comment makes me think of is, what is it? Second Peter? One of my absolute favorite places in the Bible. Absolute favorite. Now I gotta find it. Talks about suffering. Ooh. There we go. I tell you, I have a ridiculous amount of Bibles. This is my day-to-day Bible. Exactly. Exactly. Here we go. Okay. Gotta find this. Okay. I'm going to read a couple of different verses that this really just made me think of. Beloved, do not be surprised at the fiery trial when it comes upon you to test you, as though something strange were happening to you. But rejoice insofar as you share Christ's sufferings, that you may also rejoice and be glad when his glory is revealed. Yet if anyone suffers as a Christian, let him not be ashamed, but let him glorify God in that name. Since therefore Christ suffered in the flesh, arm yourselves with the same way of thinking, for whoever has suffered in the flesh has ceased from sin, so as to live for the rest of time in the flesh, no longer for human passions, but for the will of God. For the time that is past suffices for doing what the Gentiles want to do, living in sensuality, passions, drunkenness, orgies, drinking parties, and lawless idolatry. With respect to this, they are surprised when they do not join them in the same flood of debauchery, and they malign you. But they will give account to him who is ready to judge the living and the dead. If you have never read, oh hey, we just finished the actual reading portion, but we are kind of going through. I was referencing First Peter, where it talks about suffering, and if you have never read First Peter, and this is for all three of you, I don't know how much any of you know or have read or anything, but First Peter is an absolutely incredible book to read. It's very short, very short. It would probably take you 15 minutes tops to read it. And it just really speaks volumes to the suffering of the world and the suffering that we all go through individually. And it is probably the most impactful book, for me personally at least. This was the most impactful book in the entire Bible. This book is really what woke me up. When we suffer, we have to remember that there is something bigger happening. It is not just us. And one of the pieces that we've read through in previous Genesis chapters is that a lot of times, unfortunately, people are going to get hurt. They are going to be affected. They are going to reap consequences of something that somebody else has done. But it's all for the overall bigger picture. God has a bigger picture. He sees all of eternity, and he has made it, right? So he knows what's going to happen, and sometimes people are going to have to suffer to get to the better place. And I can attest to that 100%. 100%. I could go on for hours and hours and hours and hours about that. It hits home massively for me. But people are going to suffer. People are going to suffer for the benefit of the greater good sometimes, and that doesn't quite mean what it sounds like. There's a lot of context related to that statement, but man, I highly encourage you, if you have not read, no matter where you are in your journey, I would highly, highly encourage you to read First Peter in the Bible. I love Paul's letters too. They are amazing. But this one, oh man, I could literally talk for hours about this entire book. But another thing to remember is, you don't have one? Dude, I will help you out, okay? We got Bible.com. Bible.com. That's actually what's up on the screen here. Bible.com. It is free. It is literally any translation on the Bible you can go in and read. Start with ESV translation. It is probably one of the most easiest to understand, at least for me. That's one of the most easy to understand, breaks it down kind of more in our, a little bit more of our modern lingo, but like still accurate. And you can read the entire Bible. You can look at reading plans, videos, all sorts of stuff in there. So let me show you. The internet is a magical place. Now it's not going to let me load it. Watch. There we go. So you just got all these books. So you find, where are we at? First Peter. So First Peter, and it's very short. Like literally, oh, you can see all my scribbles and stuff. Literally, I've just got 4 pages, barely. That's it. Just 4 pages. That's all. It's not long. But I highly, highly encourage it no matter where you are on your journey, whether you don't believe, whether you're curious, whether you question, whether you are devoted. all in. I don't care where you are. This book is so powerful. I highly encourage you to read it. If you have any questions ever, please ask me. I would love to talk to any of you about this. But this book, oh, hits home so hard. Yes, okay, I'll shut up about it now. It's it really made such a difference for me. It really did. Like, holy cow. It is like the most highlighted, written on, notes taken book in my entire Bible. This is my scribbled on Bible here. Um, yes, that is really, I think that's like my biggest takeaway from today. Inside of my wedding band is inscribed Ephesians 5:25. Aw, yes, which I'm gonna now look up. I know what it is, but we'll. Ephesians, you said 5. Oops, wrong one, wrong one. 5:25. Husbands, love your wives, just as Christ also loved the church and gave himself up for her. Amen. Amen. And Vitality, I am so glad that you hopped in. You probably had no idea what you were walking into, but I'm really glad that you popped in, and I will not shove this down your throat. Don't worry. But absolutely, if you are ever curious, that book, First Peter, it's so short, great intro, so powerful. Anybody else have any comments or any verses you would like to reference or look at or anything? Jay Villers, I hope that you have a better day. Just remember, breathe. What is it? Be still and know that I am God. He's got you. You can do it. It's okay. Just remember to breathe and pray when you need to. You'll get through it. It'll be all right. Okay? Me too. I'm always looking forward to these. And yes, Vitality, if you get through your 2,000-page nursing book. No, it really does only take like about 10 minutes, 15 minutes to read through it if you feel like it. I know the feeling. Well, hey, that means that you're paying attention, right? You're we got your attention. Got the feels a little bit. Well, any questions, you know where to go. You know where I'm at. And I'll probably come join you here soon actually in ESO. But Jay Villers, I know you've got work to do. I will let you get back to it. Lonadar, I know you have stuff you gotta go do. But I will be around for probably a good bit of the day. So I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And just thank you so much for being here. I really love when you guys come in and join me. It's wonderful. Ditto. All right, I'll let you guys go. Have a good one.